Democrats casually admit to wasting billions of your dollars on a government shutdown. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Late last night, the government reopened, an Oval Office packed with Republicans and the media inside just after 10 p.m. on the East Coast. The president's signature ended a 43-day shutdown. And today, with the government open, one Democrat just casually reveals that they've been lying about this shutdown every day for the past 6 weeks, admitting, yeah, we did it.
We made a very strong argument. These were extraordinary circumstances, but the American people got it, that by shutting the government down, we were able to focus on and get everybody else focused on the unaffordability of health care across this country.
You know how obnoxious that is? How wrong it is, what she just said, how despicable it is that that's the reality, a very strong argument about affordability. That's why they shut down the entire freaking government, to show their side of an argument over spending and how we need to spend more to make things more affordable, which is the funniest thing that they believe that'll work. Nothing more than that. And she just admits it on cable TV. They screamed and cried about food stamp recipients. They called Republicans demonic for starving people and allowing federal workers to go unpaid, risking their livelihoods. To just flatly admit the next day, hours after we reopened the government, that it was us all along. Last night, the president torched Democrats for what they did to this country.
We're sending a clear message that we will never give in to extortion, because that's what it was. They tried to extort. The Democrats tried to extort our country. In just a moment, I'll sign a bill exactly like we asked Democrats to send us all along, many days ago. This cost the country $1.5 trillion, this little excursion that they took us on. Republicans never wanted a shutdown and voted 15 times for a clean continuation of funding.
A lot of money. It should be criminal to do the kind of damage to the American economy that they just did, just to send a political message. There should be a punishment for this, but these are the people that make the laws. And we deserve so much better than we get from Washington. The shutdown was a reminder of the capacity of those on the left to lie. Man, are they good at lying. And they can do it all day long. We heard an endless cacophony of Democrats screaming at Republicans to reopen the government. They knew all along it was a lie. Casually admitting, yeah, they were keeping it closed. Imagine being dense enough to trust anything they say. Imagine being these other people that you talk to that just believe everything that Democrat politicians tell them. Can you fathom that? Another great example of the capacity to lie, the timed leak of some Epstein emails yesterday designed to distract from the embarrassing end to their shutdown. The big one, of course, the email that they have known about for years. They've known about this for a long time. Leaked, of course, though, when they needed it the most. A redacted name hidden for political advantages that had spent hours with Trump at Epstein's house. Virginia Giuffre, who spent hours with the president, was the most vocal Epstein victim, the most vocal. She never wanted to be redacted and testified publicly under oath, and also wrote in her book that the president never crossed any lines, was always a gentleman. And yet, that's how they leaked out that email. That's what they're capable of. Stephen A. Smith kind of wades between the parties, decided to jump in on this one with a pretty common sense take.
The Epstein files were in existence and free to have been opened during the Biden administration. You were there for 4 years. How come you didn't open it as a Democratic Party then? What am I missing? From my understanding, the same files that were open or being open now with the 220 pages of documents or whatever it is, with various emails, that could have been done when Biden was in office. Well, why didn't you do it? If it's so important now. What were the Democrats doing at that particular moment in time? See, This is the kind of stuff that smells.
Yeah, it does more than smell. Rest assured, top Democrats have known every single millimeter of ammunition that is available in the Epstein files, and they have known about all of that ammo for a very long time. They know every single thing that they have. They know so much about those files. They know it all. Top Democrats, the ones that are pulling the strings, they know everything that's in there. They've known for years. They are completely addicted to power. More from Stephen.
Of course, if you had something on him about Epstein, you'd have let it go earlier to make sure he didn't become the 47th president.
And there it is, right there. Of course, of course. You think they were going to let him walk back in the White House? They did everything that they could to stop this presidency from happening. So what we get on Epstein from here on out is going to be repetitious. It's going to be the same kind of stuff. And they'll save a few more emails and they'll pepper out through the rest of his term here, the next 4 years. But this is what it'll be. They'll have to lie to make it into a scandal, just like they really lied yesterday. Yesterday, after a vote to release 20,000 documents on Epstein, we watched Congressman Tim Burchett, the Republican, Tennessee, attempt to use unanimous consent to just release it all, to do what we have wanted to see on this show, what so many people in this country wanted to see. Dump it all out. Dump the damn thing out. Let's see it all. And you know what happened? He got blocked by Democrats. Today, a reporter asked a few Democrats why they did this with how they talk about this story. Because, you know, the last 4 years, they didn't dump it all out when they had the power. Watch as the congressman who was asked this question has no idea how to respond to it and has to be saved by somebody else, another Democrat, who walks up and then gives a total non-answer. This was great.
Democrats continue to say that it's Republicans who are keeping the Epstein files hidden, but Congressman Tim Burchett is just reporting that he tried to bring a release of the Epstein files to the floor immediately, and Democrats blocked it. Do you have any insight as to what happened there and why? When?
What was that? Yeah. Look, I think it's incredibly clear that Republicans will stop at nothing to avoid the disclosure of this information. So what that means is 218 signatures were reached despite White House efforts, even at the 11th hour, to summon people down to the White House to try to get them to remove their signatures.
The question, you skis ball, was why did you guys just block unanimous consent? Why didn't your side come to do it? The Republican side did. The Democrat side, no, we're not doing that. And he didn't have an answer. Did you see the woman was like, I don't know how to answer that question. That's a good question. I'm not set up to answer that one. I wasn't informed by my staff on what to say for that particular question. And that's the truth. That's what it is. We're going to talk to Tim Burchett here in just a second. But more of this, it gets even more interesting when a friendly interview on CNN was too much for one Democrat congresswoman today. Watch as Melanie Stansbury tries to allege that the redacted victim in that big email from yesterday might not be Virginia Giuffre, even though everyone knows that it is. She just lies to try and perpetuate the idea, to keep it going, that maybe the president is a pedophile.
Are you of the belief that the victim that Epstein is alleging Trump spent time with at his house is someone besides Virginia Giuffre, or could be someone besides Virginia Giuffre?
I do not have information that would allow me to answer that question.
Her answer after saying in the entire interview that it's not Virginia Giuffre, and then when she gets asked about it, that's her answer. Tim Burchett, the congressman from Tennessee, joins us tonight. It's so good to have you on. The release of the Epstein files gets a full House vote next week. Speaker Johnson making that announcement yesterday. Tell us your reaction to that.
Not surprised. Let's do it. Let's get it on. They did block my efforts to do that. Yeah. Unanimous consent, of course. And people don't understand the rules. It's in the rule book. We did a video today. I even gave the page number. I can't think of it. I think it's 850. I'm not sure right now. But yeah, they continuously have blocked. And the reason I did that is because let's just get it out. Let's rip the bandage off. Let's let America see what's in that thing. But what the Democrats want to do, they want to delay. They want to, they want to run it through a different committee, whatever, and then mislead the public, just like she just attempted to mislead the public on who's on that file. The woman swore in court that Trump didn't do anything wrong to her. And then she's going to risk perjury. And who are they believing now? The Democrats? Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, and apparently in some crazy email they have. Look, the Democrats have had this thing for 4 years. 4 years. And they didn't. If Trump had been implicated in that thing, they would have brought him up. I mean, during the presidential election, are you kidding me? I mean, Trump is the Antichrist to those people. They wake up every morning and they see him on the news and they just all start collectively screaming and holding each other's hands and clutching their pearls. They're the biggest bunch of wusses there's ever been in the political arena. Without question. And now they can't stand it.
So let me just ask you this. Boebert went to the White House yesterday, and the media, Democrats, alleged that it was the president trying to pressure her against voting to release the files. And we don't know what happened inside of that meeting. Do you believe the White House wants these files released?
I do. But I think they want to go through the proper procedure, and that's what Chairman Comer was trying to do. He's doing a great job of it. Released thousands of files, pages today. But the Democrats want to be able to take stuff out of context, and they want to be able to do that with the help of the so-called mainstream media. Yeah. And they've been doing a pretty good job of it so far. This thing kind of went away, and now they don't have the shutdown blow up in their face. Yeah. And now, we got the Epstein files. We're gonna bring that up again. Yeah. And just bring it up. Let's get it on. Let's get it out there and let America see it. But what did they do when I tried to do it? They blocked it.
Well, everything, like you said, everything that could possibly hang Trump has been out there, and that what they're saving can't be anything big because they would have used it already, as we know. But the Democrat page on X pushed out another email that claimed that Epstein hung out with Trump on Thanksgiving in 2017. This one came today. It's based on an email where Epstein mentions Trump's name to somebody asking who else is down there. The funny thing about this one is that there's full documentation because Trump was in the White House. He had an event with the troops. You see images on the screen. He also spent time with his family and staff at Mar-a-Lago. Nothing he did when he was in 2017 Thanksgiving was not shown to the American people. He's covered. He's the president. Yeah. Everything he does, if he was as Epstein, we would have known it. The Democrat page on X had to delete that post later. Your thoughts?
And I've said this many times. They've had this thing so long. Yeah. Yeah. It's been tampered with, I'm sure. And then also the things that are going to come out. I'm not an attorney. There is a legal term for this, but a lot of stuff that's going to come out has already been discussed. Yeah. Some of it in court of law, and some of it's been disproven. But now you're going to get it all rehashed, and that, she started talking about the pictures of Trump, a girl sitting on his lap. That has been discredited continuously. Yeah. It is the worst AI. It's like something I made with a People magazine. It's a fake showing a bunch of movie stars hanging out with me because I cut out the pictures out of People magazine and pasted it there.
Yeah, just amazing. The willingness to lie and just the capacity they have to do it. Tim Burchett, Congressman, thank you so much for coming on.
Always a pleasure, brother.
We'll see what happens with that vote next week to release these files. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, next up, Senators Rick Scott and Ron Johnson together join us from California. We're going to be talking the filibuster, ending it potentially, replacing Obamacare, and the failure of California's politicians to allow the rebuild after last winter's Palisades fire. That's next.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country.
Before Charlie Kirk died, he issued a stark warning of terrifying dangers ahead in a new book, Pagan Threat, authored by Pastor Lucas Miles. Charlie said Pagan Threat could save America and that you must read it. Get Pagan Threat free with Newsmax's special offer. Plus, get Dick Morse's new book, The Real Charlie Kirk. 2 great books with our free offer today.
What's gold is new again. Pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example. the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with preserved gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
We also want to call for a termination to the filibuster so that this can never happen again. If we had the filibuster terminated, this would never happen again. And don't forget, we have another date coming up in the not too distant future. We can never let this happen again. And we should be able to pass great, really great legislation. So I say terminate the filibuster because, by the way, the Democrats will do it immediately if they ever assumed office.
All right, so the president there signing the bill to reopen the government late last night, demanding that the filibuster also be ended in the Senate, and saying that if Republicans don't do that and start getting some things done, they're going to really regret it. And then when Democrats get back into power, which will happen at some point, they're just going to do it anyway. Joining me now, two senators to talk about this. Florida Senator Rick Scott, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, both with us from the Palisades in California tonight. And it's good to have you both on. We're going to talk about why you're there here in a minute. But Senator Johnson, I just want to start with, do you think the president's accurate when he says that Democrats will have the willpower as a party to end the filibuster and they get back into power? And should Republicans do it first?
Well, I think it's a sad fact that Democrats have purged the two senators who opposed ending this filibuster. My guess is every Democrat Senate candidate will also pledge to end the filibuster. So it's a sad fact. I think the filibuster is good for the institution. But once Democrats retain power, they will end it. And they will end it so that they can maintain their power. It's all about power for them. So I basically sadly agree with President Trump that we probably ought to act first because we would do it for the benefit of the American public. Fully secure our borders, secure our elections, hopefully repair the damage done by Obamacare, transition to a system that works, and make our economy prosperous.
Yeah. Senator Scott, you agree with that?
Well, I think everything's got to be on the table. We've already had to change our nomination process because the Democrats blocked all the nominations. And so if they're going to continue to do what they're doing for the benefit of the American public, it doesn't look like we have any choice but to change this. It's better for the institution not to keep the filibuster. But if they're going to keep doing what they've been doing, like this shutdown was ridiculous. People didn't get their food stamps. You saw what happened to our airline. Our military wasn't getting paid. It makes no sense what the Democrats are doing. But like Senator Johnson said, to them, it's all about power.
Senator Scott, I want to stay with you for this one. Here's President Trump slamming Obamacare and the push for the subsidies, which is largely what this shutdown was over. Take a listen.
I'm calling today for insurance companies not to be paid, but for the money, this massive amount of money, to be paid directly to the people of our country so that they can buy their own health care, which will be far better and far less expensive than the disaster known as Obamacare.
So, Senator Scott, you were in healthcare before you went into the Senate. You owned hospitals and healthcare companies. Talk about what he's saying there and the reality of that plan, and what are Republicans doing to finally get us away from Obamacare, which, as we know, is failing?
Well, I'm like the president. And like Senator Johnson, we wanted people to get health care. I built the largest hospital company in this country. We have got to come up with a system. People actually have the opportunity to get health care. Obamacare is a complete disaster. President Obama said, oh, you get to keep your doctor. Lie. You keep your plan. Lie. You're going to save $2,500 a family. Lie. What we've got to do is fix the system. As President Trump said, Give the money to the individual. Make them a consumer of health care. That's what's going to change this. Give them the ability to buy whatever insurance they want to buy, not what some bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. tells them they have to buy.
Yeah. Senator Johnson, there was a Politico article that had a healthcare expert in there that said that essentially that if we give this money to the people instead of using it to subsidize and send to the insurance companies, if you give it to the people, that healthy people are all going to flee Obamacare and you'll be left with just sick people and that it truly will collapse. Is that, do you think that's accurate? And what do you make of that expectation?
Well, unfortunately, what Obamacare did is they dismantled the individual marketplace where people had the freedom to choose things like short-term plans. You had high-risk pools that with just slight modifications could absolutely cover people with pre-existing conditions. It costs a little bit more, but if you spread that risk over everybody with insurance as opposed to that small percentage of the American population that buys their insurance through individual markets, that's why premiums have skyrocketed under Obamacare. And the whole issue of these extended enhanced subsidies, it was just papering over, it was masking the complete disaster that Obamacare has been from a standpoint of premium increases.
And you guys collectively think that the Republicans can do this job better? I mean, we've already kind of gone down the road of health care as a human right, which I think a lot of people question that generally to begin with. But if we're there now, can Republicans do it better?
Oh, I think this is a great opportunity to fix Obamacare, to make sure the American public have access to great quality health care at a price they can afford.
Yeah. And we've got Rick Scott, who knows, as you said, more about the healthcare industry than probably anybody in Congress, if not America. And he's certainly going to be involved in writing that plan.
Okay. All right. We'll look forward to that. You guys are in the Palisades. You're in Southern California. We know the fires, how horrific it was earlier in the year. We want to take a listen because what they've done trying to build back in this area after all the promises they made has been horrendous. Newsom, everybody, the incompetence in that state is unbelievable. Here's a victim that you guys spoke with earlier today.
It's been 10 months, and our government leaders, instead of helping us rebuild, have only served to make the rebuilding process so painful and slow that many just quit and are forced out of their hometown through attrition, so vultures like Gavin Newsom and Scott Wiener have a blank slate to remake the Palisades in the vision of their wealthy donors and foreign investors.
Senator Scott, you're back there, you're seeing it. It's been almost a year since the fires raged through. What did you make of your experience in the Palisades today?
Well, first off, we've had some great witnesses today. We got to find out what happened here for the victims, especially the seniors that died out here. It's wrong. I mean, this fire should have been able to be prevented. They should have been able to help each of these families so their homes didn't burn down. And then the recovery efforts. You drive through here. We took a tour this morning. You drive through. I mean, there's almost nothing being rebuilt. You can't get a permit, and the permits cost a fortune. So the federal government is going to be asked to be a partner. When we're going to do that, we're going to make sure this community gets rebuilt the right way so we don't waste federal money.
And Senator Johnson, Gavin Newsom wants to be the president of the United States. People all over the country complaining about the price of a home. The reason that home prices and it's so expensive to live and rent is because you can't get anything built in this country. Imagine if California became the United States as far as housing, how much we would have to pay to live.
Well, the one thing we learned here is that this fire didn't have to happen. It happened because of gross incompetence, gross negligence on the part of elected officials at the state and the local level. And the people here in Palisades, they've been abandoned by the elected officials. They made all these promises right afterwards, but then they just walked away. We're like the first people who have come here for months. And so, no, this is gross incompetence, gross negligence on the part of Governor Newsom. God help us if he's ever elected president of the United States.
It's so sad to see. I used to live in Southern California, and the frustration that you see from people, I hope that it's enough to start changing some votes so people can understand what a government like that is capable of or what they're not capable of. And just the incompetence and the hyper-regulation, all of these issues are so bad. And you feel so sorry for people that have lost everything. And it'll be 5-10 years before that neighborhood is any kind of resemblance to what it was before. Senator, it's good to have you both on tonight. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right. You will not believe the amount of fraud uncovered inside our food stamp program in this country. We've got the Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, with some jaw-dropping information that's coming up next.
Ransomware scares me.
Cyberman to the rescue. PCmatic blocks the ransomware that hijacks your computer and your data, then demands a ransom.
Hackers are terrifying.
Hackers are always spying on your computer. PCmatic's VPN stops hacking.
My computer is slow.
PCmatic makes your computer faster. PCmatic is made in America and protects homes, businesses, and governments.
Thank you, Cyberman. Go to PCmatic.com.
The poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galena. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
Right now in Ukraine, elderly Jews are trapped in unbearable poverty. If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help rush a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
Eggs. It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
All right, it took a government shutdown, but Americans have now been awakened to SNAP and the rampant fraud that is in America's food stamp program, a program that I said, nobody really paid attention to that much until we shut down the government for almost 43 days. The food stamp program has 42 million people enrolled in it. 13% of this country is getting free food. You're buying breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 13% of the country. How sad is that? It costs taxpayers $100 billion a year. The Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, has revealed that 5,000 dead people are receiving SNAP benefits, which really means that their kids are just taking the SNAP benefits from the dead grandparents in most cases. And at least 500,000 are getting SNAP twice under the same name. And this is just what's been confirmed, we assume, since they started looking at this when the media started talking about it when the government shut down. On top of this, about 80% of the recipients of SNAP, we understand, are able-bodied Americans, meaning they can work, they don't have small kids, or are taking care of an elderly parent. They choose not to work because they're getting significant benefits, not just SNAP, all sorts of health care benefits and free place to live, all sorts of things in this country, a lot of goodies. And then you get down to the state level, it gets even better. The Ag Secretary, Brooke Rollins, joins us now to talk more about the numbers. And it's good to see you again, Madam Secretary. Was what we found out so far, I assume, is just the beginnings of an investigation into these programs, right?
Well, yeah, let me slightly adjust, and I've got actually big news for you, Rob. First, on day one when I was sworn in, which was earlier this year in February, the very first thing I did was send letters to every single state in America and said, never before has the federal government asked for the data, but it is a new day. President Trump is the president. We know there's a lot of fraud. We need to help partner with you all to figure out how to make sure that this money and these benefits go to those who truly need it and not rife with fraud and corruption. 29 states, mostly the red states, responded with their data sets February, March, April. So the numbers that you're talking through, those are numbers that we have been collecting and analyzing since early summer, late spring. Okay. The fact that this spotlight shined on SNAP has allowed us to talk about it. But here's the most unbelievable news I have really just over the last few days, that 5,000 dead people, that was just 1 month. The number is closer to 186,000 deceased men and women and children in this country are receiving a check. Now, that is what we're really going to start clamping down on. 500,000 are getting 2. But here's the really stunning thing. This is just data from those 29 mostly red states. Can you imagine when we get our hands on the blue state data, what we're going to find? It's going to give us a platform and a trajectory to fundamentally rebuild this program, have everyone reapply for their benefit, make sure that everyone that's taking a taxpayer-funded benefit through SNAP or food stamps, that they literally are vulnerable and they can't survive without it. And that's the next step here.
So you're telling me that 500,000 people are getting 2 checks. And let me start with, are those checks being cashed? And then as far as the dead people, are those checks being cashed? Or are they just being sent out and the money comes back?
No, the way that the program works, so through the EBT cards, electronic benefit. So the checks don't really move. Instead, every state government we give the states the money, the states administer the program, which is why every state is so different. And the states then flow the money into those cards. So it is those cards that are full that either the person's dead or they're getting it twice. We found one guy in 6 states, the same guy, the same Social Security number, getting the same benefit in 6 different states and 6 different EBT cards. So these are the things that we're uncovering that for years no one's really ever dug into because the feds didn't have the system in place to do it, but we do now. The president has made this a priority. We will fix this program.
Does anybody that's doing fraudulent things they should be removed from the program at a minimum? Off. You're done. You can't get back on. Are the charges that are going to be filed? It sounds like we have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people committing fraud against the U.S. government.
That's right. In just the last few months, we've arrested about 120 Americans committing fraud on the system. One ring was up in the Northeast, I believe it was New Jersey, where it was about a $60 million SNAP fraud ring. You actually have some of the cartels, the criminal cartels, who have figured out, not necessarily from Mexico, but from around the world, that have figured out how to infiltrate into the system, into the certain state systems that are out there. And we are actively, with the DOJ, with a lot of the other investigation units around the country, already arresting. There's a lot of people already sitting in jail, but I think we're just at the very tip of the iceberg and what we're going to find. And you're saying, and I just want to show an example here really quick. There was a Somali restaurant in Minnesota that was found guilty of a $250 million fraud scheme that exploited federally funded child nutrition programs. They claimed they were taking in $12 million in child meal payments. They said they were feeding around 4,000 to 6,000 kids a day, but it was really only 40 people during 6 weeks. But they brought in $12 million to feed 40 people. You had a grocery store in Chicago stealing over $8 million in SNAP benefits. There is rampant fraud in this. People want to know why big government doesn't work and why these big, huge programs that the government wants to fund don't work. This is exactly it. And you're saying that the blue states are not letting you even see their data. So I would imagine that the numbers that you just gave us, about 500,000 getting 2 instead of 1, is going to be dramatically higher. I think it's going to be dramatically higher. And Rob, when you marry that to the fact that under the Biden administration, he increased SNAP funding by 40%. Of course, this was 21, 22, 23. I think they were trying to buy an election, trying to put more people, into government programs. And so you see this sort of snowball that has really spun completely out of control. And again, we were working on this. We've been working on this since February. But I think the Democrats' unintended consequence of their craziness in voting 15 different times to keep the government closed, to not fund SNAP, to keep vulnerable families hostage, truly vulnerable families hostage that actually do rely on these programs. And all of that, the unintended consequence is now America has woken up. And even their voters see that this is not okay. Significant reform has to happen. Our taxpayers deserve so much better.
Amazing. The Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. Madam Secretary, thanks for giving that story to us, and thanks for watching our money, because nobody else in that damn town cares at all about it. So we appreciate you doing that for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rob, thank you.
All right. Epstein explodes right as Democrats deal with a humiliating government shutdown and the media proves itself to be pure propaganda for the Democrat Party. We got that next with Rick and Ed.
Hey, I'm Mike Hammond from Signal Relief. You know the holidays are meant to be about family, laughter, and taking things slow. But when you're in pain, it's hard to enjoy any of it. I know because my back has made life difficult for me. But that's why I love the Signal Relief patch. It helped me enjoy the holidays again. It helped me enjoy my family again. I've given this patch as a gift to friends, family, and even strangers in pain because I know it works. In a recent study, over 85% of people felt relief. It really doesn't matter where you hurt because the patch works, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. For a limited time, we're bringing back our largest discount ever, 50% off. So get a Signal Relief patch today. Trust me when I tell you, the patch works.
One of my favorite supplements is Cunol Turmeric. Turmeric helps with healthy joints and inflammation support, and Cunol has the #1 doctor recommended form of turmeric. Cunol, the brand I trust.
He's breathing. Okay, go again.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. Well, there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifepack.net or call 877-543-3822.
Canines for Warriors pairs highly trained rescue dogs with combat veterans suffering from PTSD, and the results are nothing short of transformational. They're saving lives every single day on both ends of the leash. Now, full disclosure, I am not a combat veteran, and Freddie here is not what you'd call highly trained. We are, however, the very best of friends, and delighted to remind you that switching to Pure Talk will get you unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for a lot less kibble than you're accustomed to paying. But that's not why I switched. I switched because I like to be in business with companies who share my values, and I really appreciate what Pure Talk has done for our veterans and for our best friends. Now, I can't speak for Freddie, but ever since I switched, he has been a very good boy. Pure Talk, an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Belly rubs not included.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well.
This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
Tonight, the breaking news just as we come on here, many of Jeffrey Epstein's emails released. Donald Trump mentioned in several of them.
Democrats first shared a few of these emails.
The Jeffrey Epstein file.
It's pretty clear that the president doesn't want this in the ether.
How bad can this get for Donald Trump? We have no idea, but he does.
Another great example of just how tethered the media is to the Democrat agenda we saw yesterday on the humiliating day for Democrats when the government would reopen after a 43-day pointless shutdown, a day that looked so terrible for them politically. Here was the leaked email, the one email of several, that was timed to soften the blow of this embarrassment for the dying Democrat Party. It was Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. It just happened to come out yesterday. I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And then it has redacted victim spent hours at my house with him, and he has never once been mentioned as it continued on after that. And with that email, Epstein suddenly becomes a story again. Remember, it wasn't a story for 4 years when Biden was in the White House, and it became one for a while, and then it went away again. Now it's another top story. Front page, every single newspaper, everywhere you could look. Epstein, 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 the same media that didn't care about this during the Biden years, itching and salivating to ask about him, even to the president in the Oval Office.
On Jeffrey Epstein, thank you guys for knowing.
Mr. President, can you respond to these Epstein emails that were released today?
That was last night, just after 10 o'clock when the government reopened. The victim's name in the email you saw was redacted, right? Redacted by Democrats, and we know now that was purely for political reasons. Virginia Giuffre was the most vocal Epstein victim before she took her own life. She did not want to be redacted. She did not want to hide from this. And both in public depositions, sworn in, and in her own book, her memoir, she forcefully exonerated the president of any wrongdoing, saying that Trump was always a gentleman and that she never saw him participate in anything perverse. Democrats, though, concealed her name so that people out there would read about Trump spending hours with an Epstein victim and assume the worst. Exactly what goes through your head when you think about Trump spending time with a young victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, it is that perverse. Meanwhile, over at MSNBC, the redhead flirting with a major lawsuit.
You're talking about the other predators out there, in addition to Trump. I mean, I'm not saying he is. We don't know all the details about that. I just mean in addition to what we've learned about Epstein and others, there's other predators out there. There are.
Oh, yeah, we got to backtrack that real quick because now we're MS Now. We're not MSNBC anymore. We're not going to have enough money for a Trump lawsuit. And two hosts, Rick Leventhal and Ed Henry, join us to talk more about this.
Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Rick, I'll start with you and your thoughts on the display that we got to witness yesterday.
Well, it was predictable, I guess, but also highly ridiculous because, like you said, this story's been out there for many, many years, and nothing was done with it until now. And they decided to drop this alleged bombshell on the day when they looked really, really bad. And when it comes right down to it, yeah, they redacted the name of someone who didn't want to be redacted, who cleared the president of any wrongdoing. But by redacting the name, they made it sound really mysterious and dangerous and awful. And we keep seeing that one picture of the president with Epstein back in the 90s when he took pictures with thousands and thousands of people. And yeah, they flew in the same social circles. They might have flown together on a plane once or twice. But what about Bill Clinton? The Democrats don't say a word about him. Epstein visited Clinton's White House at least a dozen times and allegedly flew on his plane more than 24 times. So if there's a real story here, Clinton is also named in those emails. Clinton is the real story. Yeah. We've already heard the Trump story, and it's a nothing burger.
And the truth is, Ed, from what I can imagine, because they've had access to these files for such a long time, when they were in power, they had access to them. I think that they have a few of these really dirty things, and they wait for very good, well-timed days to drop them. Like yesterday, they were like, we need a distraction today, because yesterday was going to suck. So here's one little one, and there's nothing to it, obviously. You see what they did and how desperate they were to do it.
Right. And the media takes the bait anyway because they want to try to protect the Democrats. Sure. But then in a weird way, I think President Trump ends up looking better because it's a whole lot of nothing, right? So they hyperventilate and there's no there there. The other piece of this is the latest leak, if you will, is based largely on emails back and forth between a pedophile and his enabler, right? Epstein, who's now dead, and Maxwell, his enabler. We don't know. So, guys, when they're emailing each other, hey, we've got something on whether it's Bill Clinton or Trump or anyone. That could just be what they were doing to try to get themselves out of some trouble, say, I'm going to sell somebody out. We don't know if any of that's true. Anything those two people, who are both criminals, by the way, not great sources, they were saying might have been their cover story. They knew the feds were watching them. They knew they were in trouble. So anything they were saying in that 2017, 2018 timeline is pretty suspect as well, because they're trying to get their narratives out there, knowing eventually someone will get it, right, Rick?
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I meant to say something along the same lines. I mean, you got to consider the source, Rob.
Yeah, you always say this has been really a spectacle to watch, and the fact that they just wait and drop these things again. It was going to be a politically devastating day for them, and they've had a lot of those lately. It is something else. Real quick before I let you guys go, just want to get the breaking news of the day in about the BBC, what they did in that documentary, trying to pose Trump's speech as though he called for violence, editing that speech in that way. They have just apologized, but they're still saying they refuse to pay any compensation. They don't believe that they've slandered him in any way that deserves compensation, even though they now admit that they tried to make it, Ed, sound like he had just called for violence on that day when he didn't do it.
Right, because they selectively edited out, go protest peacefully and patriotically, which is what we all know is the truth of what Donald Trump said on January 6th. I wonder, who does the BBC think it is? CBS's 60 Minutes? I mean, these American media outlets got away with this nonsense of selective editing for a long time. No more. Donald Trump's been winning these lawsuits. This $1 billion likely suit we're hearing against the BBC may happen. And by the way, some other breaking news today. There is a second example of the BBC. They've been caught again selectively editing another Trump speech. That could mean a pattern of defamation that could help his case.
Something else. Amazing stuff.
And if I could just add to that real quick, my understanding is that it's easier to sue media companies in Great Britain than it is here in America. So if he's already won here, I think it's more likely to win there.
Yeah, that's something else. Rick and Ed, good to see you both. Thanks, guys.
Good to see you.
Swalwell in deep. Next in News from the Left.
Dreaming of a new kitchen? Now's the time at Cabinets to Go during our Buy More, Save More sale. For 2 weeks only, save up to 40% and choose from a huge selection of popular color and style combinations. And our expert designers will help you get started with a free 3D design. It's never been easier or more affordable to bring your dream kitchen to life. Visit CabinetsToGo.com to find a store near you and come in today for big savings during our Buy More, Save More sale. Cabinets to Go, designed to wow.
It's about political
points. People deserve better fiscal.
It's terrible. Politics seeps into everything.
What do you mean? Talk about climate change or the economy or, of course, elections.
You can't find out what we should really expect to happen.
But of course you can.
Go to IBKR's Forecast Trader.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Ageless Male is a best-selling brand in male enhancement. Our Rapid Nitric Oxide Booster, our performance-boosting Wonder Pill, and our best-selling formula for boosting your total testosterone. Ageless Male. Be the man you want to be.
As we mark 250 years of America, Wounded Warrior Project honors those who serve. They've given us their commitment and sacrifice. We're here to give them a brighter future. Our programs and services help warriors access VA benefits, improve mental and physical health, and thrive for a lifetime. They've given us their best. Join us in supporting them through the next 250 years of strength and resilience. Visit woundedwarriorproject.org/USA250.
Afraid your roof won't make it through the winter? Roofmax can tune up and restore your roof for a fraction of the cost of a replacement. Call now, and the tune-up portion is free with your Roofmax treatment.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. The most obnoxious, sleazy congressman in Washington, Eric Swalwell, hit with a federal criminal referral for mortgage fraud and tax fraud related to his purchase of his $1.2 million home in Washington, D.C. Housing Administrator Bill Pulte alleging in a letter sent to Pam Bondi that Swalwell may have made false or misleading statements in loan documents. The referral also alleges several $1 million worth of loans and refinancing based on Swalwell declaring that his primary residence is in Washington, D.C., despite the fact that he is a congressman from California. How can you be a congressman from California if your primary residence is in Washington, D.C.? Either he's guilty of fraud or he's ineligible to be a congressman. Which one is it? Take your pick. Swalwell telling NBC, as the most vocal critic of Trump over the last decade and the only person who still has a surviving lawsuit against him, the only thing I'm surprised about is that it took him so long to come after me. Oh, Eric, this should be fun to watch. Next up, Democrat Senator John Fetterman hospitalized after falling and hitting his head this morning near his home in Braddock, Pennsylvania. Spokesperson saying it was established he had a ventricular fibrillation flare-up that led to him feeling lightheaded, saying that he is doing well now. Hospital's abundance of caution. Before this health scare, though, earlier this week, Fetterman was on CNN talking about how much nastier the radical left has been to him than the right.
The right would say really rough things and names. You know, some names I won't repeat on TV. But the on the left, it was like they want me to die, or that we're cheering for your next stroke, or that's terrible that depression won. Why couldn't it depression won? People are wishing. You know, I wish he dies, or I want him to die. You know, literally cheering for a stroke.
Don't even think for a single second that the far left in this country isn't the most dangerous thing that we face. Don't even imagine it. And it's from right there at the source. The things that they say to him, the things they wish for, heinous. All right, the government reopened last night. Did anybody notice? We hit the streets of New York to find out next.
Closed captioning brought to you by MagnaLife Relaxing Leg Cream PM for a good night's sleep.
The discomfort in your legs at night is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Relaxing Leg Cream. It's a lifesaver if you have restless legs.
Available at your local retailer.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Used daily, dermatologist-recommended Dermen Moisturizing Bruise Cream can help restore your skin's natural barrier and reduce the appearance of bruises. If you have mature skin and bruise easily, get Dermen Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle and get back to having way too much fun.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. Most investors believe their IRA, 401k, and bank accounts are reliable and safe. But what if our economy becomes so dire that you're restricted from accessing your own money? The fact is that should your bank be in trouble for holding bad loans, the burden could fall on you to help bail them out. Even more concerning is that U.S. financial regulations allow banks to impose withdrawal limits on your hard-earned savings. But there's something you can do about it. Our team at Swiss America has a report called The Secret War on Cash. Learn how to protect yourself with assets that can remain outside the control of banks and other financial institutions. For over 40 years, Swiss America has been one of the most trusted metal firms in the country. So don't wait. Call or text the number on your screen today for financial peace of mind in these uncertain times.
My name's Mary. I've been playing the piano since I was 4 years old. Music is my life. There are two things in my life I'm not going to stop: playing the piano and taking Balance of Nature. That's what I do.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Get 35% off your first preferred set with free shipping as a new preferred customer by using discount code Newsmax.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
And finally tonight, the government shutdown is over. It has reopened, and we hit the streets of New York today to find that a lot of people really had no idea.
Oh, it actually just opened?
The government?
Yeah.
Oh, it's reopened?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm glad he's reopened again.
That's huge because my dad, he lives in California.
Oh, nice.
But he's coming out here for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So he's going to be able to fly now.
I'm not really sure who to blame, but it took us 2.5 hours to get through the airport.
I will blame Trump.
I blame Democrats. I'm for the Republicans.
I blame the Republicans. Yeah. They know what they was doing.
Oh, the Democrats. All they wanted was a continuing resolution. Pretty simple.
Trump is a great president, and we need him to extend the 4 years that he got left. He should get another second term.
Someone doesn't want some files opened up, and, you know, we have a shutdown because of it. Hey, Eugene, what's up, buddy?
I think that there's just too much fighting going on, and we should all just meet in the middle somewhere.
Well, how do people feel that they have to work for their food stamps?
We got food stamps back, so.
They have a pretty strong base, like Mondami here. You know, that's one of the problems. The radical left, it's the extreme left. The moderate Democrats are fine.
Donald Trump is really doing his thing. Like I said, he opened up the shutdown. He opened it up. It ain't like he shut it down. It wasn't him. He opened it up to help the people.
Okay, thank you very much.
So the one that blamed it on Trump was happy to get the food stamps back. Kind of a correlation there. That's all the time we got. Finity's next. We'll see you tomorrow night.